Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. This is it. It's the big game, the Super Bowl, and we've got Gill Alexander here to give you his best bet on the Super Bowl. Gill, you've got two teams that public perception right now, and I talk public perception all the time, my Betting First Look podcast, radio shows, your podcast. The public sees what they see, and they formulate an opinion, and anybody that watched the conference championship games, your takeaway was Seattle was lucky to win. More so, I don't know, people even say Seattle was lucky to win. I think everybody says Green Bay choked that game away. Seattle didn't win it. Green Bay lost it. But it's a negative feeling about Seattle coming out of that game. And then if you go back to the game before against Carolina, people are looking and saying, Cam Newton doesn't throw that pick six. They're driving. We could have had a tie game. And that was Carolina out of that garbage division that had a losing record to come into the playoffs. But the fact remains, I don't care if they had a losing record or not. At the end of the season, Carolina was playing good football. I scored a couple big plays with them down the stretch.
I did too.
And they were healthy for the first time.
Yes.
That team was not healthy all year. So people don't discredit the win over Carolina. Carolina was playing good ball. Green Bay had Seattle beat, absolutely. But Seattle still had to make the plays to win, even though Green Bay maybe made some questionable decisions on what they did during the course of the game that kept Seattle in it. Seattle still had to make the plays at the end of the game to get back in it.
Recency is an amazing thing, and it's mind-boggling for folks like us who do this year-round, how, particularly when the Super Bowl comes around, how people make the same error every single year. Look, this is exactly what happened last year. Seattle squeaked out of a tough game against a really good football team. Probably the second best football team last year was the Niners.
Right.
But people tend to just sort of erase that fact, or they don't see it that way based on the outcome of a specific game. So when Seattle squeaked by San Francisco and Denver just murdered New England, a very diminished New England team last year, the line went from Seattle -2.5, or excuse me, I even had a Seattle -3 last year, even money, all the way to Denver being a 3-point favorite. No, excuse me, it was -2.5 for Seattle, and I got Seattle +3, I should say.
Yeah, I got Seattle too at 3. I had to go to Reno to get it because it was like, as soon as there was a 3, it was gone.
Yeah, Seattle -2.5 all the way to +3. I grabbed it and it was gone. Exactly. Same thing for me. This is not exactly the same thing, but pretty similar. Seattle, like you say, it's miraculous that they won that game. Absolutely miraculous. But they're playing Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers almost single-handedly winning that game for himself. If we're not for poor coaching, if we're not for poor coaching decisions, Seattle wins that game. There's so many things that had to happen for Seattle to win that game. Meanwhile, New England destroys Indianapolis, and we see the spread go from Seattle -2.5 as that game is continuing. There was even a Seattle -3 here in Vegas in a couple places. And now New England, as we sit here today, -1 as we tape this. Aaron Kessler from Golden Nugget, who I was sitting at dinner with the other night, he thinks his hunch is that it gets to -2.5. Either way, I think the recency is what is amazing. It's as if these last year and a half, 2 years of the Seattle Seahawks all of a sudden goes out the window. No, I saw them struggle against Green Bay. I like New England. Really? Like that? These last couple years haven't happened? And in New England's case, they're playing an inferior football team in the Colts. The Colts, for all their future possibilities, still a rookie still a young quarterback. Luck is great.
In his first championship game.
First championship game. He's great. Don't get me wrong. But you have a defense with the Colts that a lot of their success this year was on preventing third down conversions. And that's sort of a theme of mine. In baseball, I like to, without giving away too much, I like to look at runners in scoring position success. Runners in scoring position and third down conversions in football are a similar thing in that they mask actual performance. They're not something that's sustainable, either positive or negative. So I thought about when I was coming on this video with you, like, what could I provide here that might be different than what other people saying are in this game? Aaron Schatz of Football Outsiders has done the work for me. Aaron Schatz, who comes on my podcast annually. The Seahawks have had the least amount of penalties called on their opponents all year. Now, this is an interesting thing. There's certain things that our eye watching football doesn't see. So, again, I can sit here and tell you why I think the Seahawks are a better football team than the Patriots till I'm blue in the face. But one of the things that I think people don't, that I think should be added to this is the Seahawks are actually a lot better than you think. They had an entire year as Super Bowl champions. This is very rare. As Super Bowl champions, you think you get the calls, especially with Seahawks home field advantage. Oh, you're getting all the benefit of the calls. The Seahawks opponents had 70 accepted penalties called on them all year long. To give you an idea what like a league average is, it's over 100. So it's significantly less that the Seahawks have had as a benefit in playing their opponents this year. Only 5 false starts called on their opponents at home, by the way, this year, too. People think, oh, they're probably getting false starts all over the place. No, Seattle has had to overcome their own penalties, and what we don't notice with our eye watching football is their opponents have gotten all the benefit of the world. If you talk to Seahawks fans, they'll tell you, they'll be like, yes, finally, somebody's saying this.
Yeah.
We got nothing this year. The refs didn't give us any favors. So am I saying that that's going to all of a sudden turn on its head in the Super Bowl? No, I don't know what's going to happen in one game. But what I am saying is this is a much better football team than actually meets the eye in that respect, too. That's something that no one in the national media will talk about.
No, one thing that I'll say, and you know, I got to play devil's advocate a little bit. In last year's matchup, Carroll versus Fox, that was a mismatch with Pete Carroll, in my opinion. John Fox is an okay coach, but he's going to get out-coached by guys like Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick. Now, this year, you've got probably 2 of the, you know, Belichick, everybody, that is everybody's head coach. He's the mad genius, and it's been doing it year after year. The Patriots are always there. Do you see a problem with Belichick in having the 2 weeks to prepare, minus the fact of the distractions that he's had to answer about, you know,
Deflate.
Yeah, Tom Brady's balls all week.
Sorry?
You know, the situation there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that Seattle does not own the edge like they had last year?
Look, I'm not going to take anything away from Bill Belichick. He's a great game planner. He's what listen, I come from the school of Joe Gibbs, my personal football god.
Absolutely.
And the reason I think Gibbs is great and better than any other coach is that he won 3 Super Bowls with not only 3 different quarterbacks, but 3 different sets of personnel. He had the humility and the genius to tailor his game plans around personnel. Belichick, and by the way, when the Redskins were getting beat in the first half, second half adjustments were huge for them, him and defensive coordinator Richie Pettibone. Bill Belichick is a modern day version of that. Every week, what is the Patriots' hallmark that no other team really possesses? They change their strategy on a week-to-week basis. We as handicapped, we don't know what we're getting with the Patriots. So yes, do I respect Belichick? Absolutely. The extra week, does it help? Can't hurt. But I can't get this mismatch out of my mind of Edelman and the smallish Patriots receivers going against this Herculean secondary of the Seahawks. Maxwell and Sherman on the outside, Thomas and Chancellor in the middle. Now, will it help Gronk in the middle? Perhaps. But Tom Brady hasn't faced this kind of defense, and we're just talking secondary now alone. So Belichick's going to have some wrinkles, but I think in the end, coaches can only do so much, and on the field, there's a mismatch, in my opinion, and I love the Seahawks.
The only thing I'm going to say, and when we did the props, I said that I have a theory of how the game's going to unfold. Belichick and the Patriots, the Steelers, it seemed like they always would meet in the playoffs or during the regular season. And when the Steelers had their best defenses, Belichick always gave the Steelers fits. And what he did is he came out and says, you got the best defense in the league? Yeah, we're going to stretch you out all over the field. And what he would do is come out with 4 wide receiver sets, and it caused matchup problems because it slows down the blitz because you've got too many guys to cover. It opens up the middle. It makes you vulnerable. And I think that is the game plan he's going to come with, especially because, as you said, he's the kind of guy that when you think he's going to zig, he's going to zag. And last week, they came out and ran the football against Indianapolis. And now you're going to look, we got to stop, we got to worry about that power running game and blah, blah, blah. No, I don't think so. I think he's going to spread the field, and there's going to be a lot. I'm not saying it's going to be successful, but I'm saying that's going to be their game plan, and that's why I geared the props that I did to that game plan.
And I'm not disputing that strategy. I think you're probably right, and the Pittsburgh comparison is a good one. It's one thing to have the strategy. It's another thing to be successful with that strategy. I just read, before we got on air here, I just read something in the Boston Herald, a very passionate Patriots article about how the Patriots should dictate from play one that they're going to dictate strategy in this game. They're not going to let the Seahawks do it. And how are they going to do that? They should line up 5 wide on the left side going up against Sherman. And I'm reading this and I'm like, good luck.
Yeah.
Absolutely good luck to you. If you look at the advanced stats on Richard Sherman, his side of the field since his arrival in 2011, the Seahawks are #1 in every imaginable defensive category, from total QBR allowed on down the line. Yes, I think Belichick will try lots of wrinkles. You might even see something we've never seen before from the Patriots. That might even mean a lock. Mm-hmm. But the Seahawks are just one of these defenses. They weren't epic this year for much of it because they didn't have their players. We talked about injuries on another video. We tend to overlook injuries. When they got all their guys back, they haven't missed a beat. And so, yes, Belichick will try. I just don't believe he'll succeed.
All right. Well, Gill says to take Seattle. If you want to check out Brian Leonard on Sunday, he's making his biggest play of the season. Now, I know there's only one game left, and I told him, don't call it a game of the year, because everybody's going to say, you know what, yeah, it's the last game of the year. I know Brian personally. I know what he bets. I know a lot of times if I'm out of town somewhere and it's where I can get a better line and he's doing it, I know the guy is serious. I know what he bets. This is his biggest bet, and I told him that's the way to word it. This is your biggest bet of the NFL season, because that's what it is. The numbers don't lie. If you want to find out who it is, check him out Sunday. Big 5% play, and as you know, all of the 5% plays at Wager Talk, unlike all the other competitors, we put our money where our mouth is. If we put up a 5% play and that capper loses that play, your account's going to be credited 150%. You paid $30 for the game, we'll put $45 back in your account for future use with that capper. That's the way we do it at Wager Talk. Hey, I want to thank Gill Alexander for sitting in this week. Fun doing it when you're here during the summer, as you are so often in baseball season. Love to have you stop by a few times, maybe talk some baseball, even though you're at another site. That's fine. This is a big industry, and I like to take care of the friends, and I do consider you one of my closest friends in the industry. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Marco D'Angelo. Guys, enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back next week. WagerTalk.com.